It's Sunday morning. Guards are just closing the door here behind us because we're just sorting cows out here. We've had a nice Frisian bull calf born just there about 3 hours ago this morning. And so better out leave her there for the day. But we've had a very lucky streak for the past 4 years now where we haven't actually lost anything. We lost one cow on our first year on YouTube, which was 4 years ago now. It's hard to believe, but a long-term illness, which is something you can't really do anything about. But last night we had a heifer calf born here, the cow, which put us in good humour because it was before milking. Great time on a Saturday evening because we knew we'd probably get most of the Saturday night off, which we did. But our smiles were short-lived because after that I went into our dry cow pen, and I always go in after milking morning night and take a good long walk through our dry cows and check them all over. And when I was checking them over, I noticed the cow behind, she's drinking at the minute. When she urinated, there was blood in it, which is not a good sign, especially for a cow that still had to go a month before calving. Really good cow as well, only a third lactation. This would have been our third lactation. So we took her out of the shed where she was, we brought her over here, put her in a pen of her own so I could watch her last night. And I did, but I kind of knew what was coming. This morning, just there about a half an hour ago, she passed a dead calf. Not a pretty sight either. So it's been dead for a little while inside her. I know the young people watch these videos. I'm just going to explain it, I'm not going to show it. Unfortunately for her now, she's dry. She didn't put up any elder at all. So that also leaves her at an end for us. So what we'll do with her is we will give her some meal. We will let her build herself up, let her put on some weight. Then we will sell her on to another farmer. When she's in good style and good condition. She's a big cow, she'll put on a lot of weight. Just really disappointing. It takes the niceness out of it, but that's it, there's nothing you can do. Just wanted to show you that before we carried on. So the next job I'm going to do is something that I filmed about 6 or 7 weeks ago. I never got around to adding into a video because we were busy with other stuff that was going on. But this is a little compressor, and the reason why I'm showing you this now before I show you the original part is that I missed a section. I didn't miss it, my camera forgot to record it. I bought this little compressor, it's only a 50 litre. I haven't used it in a while because I have a bigger 200 litre compressor that does most of my work now. But before I had those, I bought this on Dundee about 60 or 70 euro I think at the time. It was nearly brand new and it done quite a bit of work when it came here. Small little jobs, but still done everything I asked it. But then I started to get some tools, some air tools and stuff, and it wasn't fit to run those. And the limitations after a while become apparent. But a few problems started to rise with it. This was leaking quite bad, so it wasn't holding any air. So another problem it had was this pipe here, which runs up the far side, but it comes along here, and it kind of controls when the system should shut itself down. This is the way it was here. It was just all crushed. It's kind of a bad design. It really should have had some sort of a protection over it. It got crushed. It worked for a bit, but it never was right since. So there was a few things wrong with it. But it lay up then for the past 3 years, really not used at all. And I always said, you know what, I must fix it because it's worth nothing the way it sits. So I might as well put a few quid into it and just fix it because it'll be an awful lot cheaper than a new one and it'll still be a good compressor. I have a little generator that I can hook up to this. And I can throw this in the back of the quad because it's so small. Blow up a tyre along the side of a road, out in the field, somewhere where you just cannot bring a 200 litre compressor with you or wouldn't want to. We'll pick this up when we have it all already stripped down. And we're just in the middle of replacing this pipe. You won't see it coming off because that's the bit of footage we missed, but you'll see it from then onwards. So the next thing we do is stick this pipe up into it. So you need to put on this wire here first, then this little ring here. So we're looking at this here, we need to kind of work out what way we want to bend this. So I'd like to just come down a gradual bend and up here. Just need to take a little bit of this one.
That's what I said in the first place.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
Very close. You don't over tighten this, you just have to bed it in. The ring gets a grip, but don't over tighten it. That's one of the worst things you could do, and it happens so easy. Just tuck you inside here because there's no point in standing out in that wind. So that should go up into this now, no bother. Hopefully. In here, there's a little screw. You just pop the screw out and the lid comes off. Then you can access everything you need to access. Unfortunately, the screw is, well, there's a word I'll not use, but it's not in great shape. That's the best way of putting it. So I'm not reusing this. I'm wanting to get it off to put on a new one. So I'm just going to have to drill it out. Now we're in here. It's just a pressure regulator, a pressure switch, what people calls it. It's leaking down here. I know where it's leaking. I'm not going to fix it, I'm just going to replace it. So I have one sitting here on the shelf quite a while. I'm not just sure what shelf it's on, but I'm hoping it's not too far away. Plug out, plug in really, change a few things around, put the clock on, put the quick connect back onto it. Let's tear it. Easier to actually take these clocks and things off. Now, before we remove it, that's that one. All right. So this little pipe here needs to come off. Now you're not going to get that pipe off. One of them have a nut here you can loosen and just take it off with a ring on it and pop it into the new one. Actually, the new one has that, the nut, which is a much better design. So you're going to have to cut it and put a ring. Thankfully this pipe is long enough. There was plenty of extra room to do this, so I'm just going to have to cut it across here. Next thing we need to do is solve this problem here. So our old pressure switch is off now. But the connection that goes from our old pressure switch down into this cylinder will not work with this one. This one's different. Now I have it stripped down, just the plastic cover taken off it, but the hole is different compared to the other one I took off. It's a different, completely different size of thread. So I had a look about and eventually I found a hydraulic fitting here which will adapt this to that, and that'll do the job. So hopefully this works. It should work. Right, we're going to put a wee bit of plumber's tape on every joint. It does no harm. Throw it on. There we are. So the next few things we need to do, I suppose, is to wire it. But before I wire it, I want to put the clock and things all back onto this. Now we had to shorten it. I'm hoping it'll reach. It should be okay. I think the last one had plenty of extra on it. Tighten that up. Don't go too tight because you'll crush the ring and then you'll have a bigger problem. Now, as you can see, my help is about as useful as an underwater hairdryer. And there's the other one. Right, so he goes in there. Just put our pressure clock back on. We have a bit of shelter here in the workshop, we might as well use it. That's all. Right, so we have everything wired, everything plumbed. But before I put the cover back on, there's a wee thing here I just want to run past you. Now, the reason I'm replacing this pressure switch, well, there was two things wrong. One was there was a lot of air when the pressure switch would knock the compressor off. There was air leaking out at the bottom. But that's not the reason I changed it. Is the switch itself was actually broken, and this spring here was broken. So that's why I decided to change the pressure switch. Now, air coming out of the bottom of it when the actual compressor cuts off is very common. It happens in loads of compressors. People might think instantly, just change this, it's coming out of here, it must be a problem with the pressure switch. It's not. Most of the time it's actually coming from this guy here, which is a non-return valve or check valve, if you want to call it, probably the best name for it. Inside here there's a little spring and a rubber, like a rubber washer. You'll see it, we're going to take it apart here. Sometimes that rubber washer can get dirt coming from the tank, up into it and just stop it from sealing. Other times the rubber itself can be perished, the spring can be broken as well. Most of the time when you hear air coming out of the bottom of your pressure switch, it's normally this guy here is at fault. You'll see this spring that I'm talking about. That's that off, and there's the spring. And there's the little rubber grommet that sits on the end. I'm just looking at it here, it looks fairly good. Right, it's very hard on the camera to pick it up, but on the bottom of this, it should be flat. On this one's not. It has wear where it's pushing in here. It has wear on it, it's fairly uneven. Now, be right, you should order a new one of these, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna actually get a bit of sandpaper, I'm gonna sand it flat, because it's not cracked. I'm gonna see will that solve a problem. I've also noticed, if you can see there, the markings are still on it. It wasn't sitting dead on straight, it was sitting to one side. Maybe a little bang that it got that caused the problem with this pipe shook it to one side, and that could be the whole issue. So we're going to just stick it back together again. The spring's not broken, so stick that back in its place. We're just going to run it here first and see what it's like before we put the cover back on. No air leaks anyway, and no air leaks there. I do have this cover that has to go on, but I'm going to have to modify that cover because it's not going to sit in now with that pipe sticking out the way it is. It's going to need a little bit of a modification on this side here, just a little cut here to allow that pipe to fit in. That should work. Put this cover back on. That little groove will allow us to get that in. Stick a bolt in here now. New bolt because the last one was rotted out. There. Right, that's our little compressor all fixed up again. If you're buying wrenches, be very careful of the wrenches you buy. See these chrome plated wrenches? See that stuff that peels off there? It's hard stuff, and what happens is that there would slice your finger open. I don't even know what brand that is and when I got it, but I have lots of mix and matches of different wrenches. I actually rather these better, these ones that aren't chromed, and they seem to last up, and again, not expensive, whatever brand that is, not expensive. But these, yeah, just dangerous. That's her now, all buttoned up, ready to go to work. I get some spray adhesive or something next time down the shop. Take the stickers off, glue them, and put them back on. So when they're there, it's got the model number and all on it, so when they're there, I might as well stick them back on. But otherwise, apart from the superficial stuff, she's running great now, and I've no doubt there'll be a use for it at some stage. I normally wouldn't show this type of stuff, and I spend a lot of time rooting at this type of stuff. I don't like to throw stuff out without having a go at least at trying to fix it. There's something very satisfying in fixing little things like that and getting them running. Anyway, I'm going to get out of the rain. Let's go do something else. Alright, so at the end of the last video, I mentioned that I had a bit of an accident when putting on my slurry tanker. The thing that I broke was the wide angle shaft. Now this, as you can see, is not a wide angle shaft. This is just one I've got the lend of here to keep the slurry tanker going when we're just moving water. There's not a hope of us putting out any slurry anytime soon. Our ground is absolutely swimming here, and I see videos of lads, and I envy them, out with slurry tankers on pipes and stuff working away. You would not put a tractor into any of our fields to even pipe at the minute. They're just saturated, and they've got a lot of drying to do, and they need the right weather to dry, so hopefully we'll get that. We're alright for slurry storage. The other tank over there is keeping us going. We still have about 1.5 foot on each tank down there. We've one tank 3/4 empty. We've been drawing over the past couple of days. You'll see a bit of that after. When I was hooking on this here, we have a telescopic hitch on both tractors. The Massies, a lot of them now have telescopic hitches, so I was hooking it on the 54 and picked up the slurry tanker. But you see the way this shaft does sit on the stand? When I picked it up, it fell off the stand. The stand just slipped back. It's very loose, that stand, anyway. I need to put a new bolt in it and straighten it. Just like that. And when I pulled it into the tractor, this was sitting just at a bad angle, and it had kind of semi-caught on this here. The whole Hardy Spicer here, driven back like that, and it broke. Well, it's hard to explain, but there's two little balls in a wide angle shaft, two joints, and in them joints there's like two little balls. A little bit of the casting broke, because it was pushed back so far. And yeah, that was that. Now here is the other part of my wide angle shaft here. This is the part that goes up onto the tank. Anyway, I left that shaft away to get it fixed where I bought it. If we have to put a new one on it, I'll have to put it on it. So one other thing I want to show you real quick is the digger. We took both rams off. They're both gone now. We jacked it up, just took both rams off. And we actually left them away this time to get them rebuilt. Mentioned before that I was getting the new seals for them in Connaughty's. But they actually rang me and said, just bring the rams over. Don't pull them apart because you could be running back and forth. If we had all here, we have a man who can pull it apart. At least then we fit the measure up and get the seals made for it if we don't have them in stock. And walk that way. So that was a blessing to me. They didn't have to twist my arm on that one because I'm busy enough as it is. But we also picked up these two bits and pieces. I'll show you this in another video, but it's in the back of the Jeep here. And this is the guy that goes in the bottom of the slew motor. That's the guy that goes in the back, on the bottom of the back actor, that is all bent on the one we have over here. So these will be going on later in the spring. I'm waiting on a bearing. They're looking for a bearing for this here because that one's all seized up. We've bushings and things got to go in here. We are working on it, but that'll be all for a different video. So let's get that shaft sorted first and take it from there. So we're back. This is our shaft and it is good news. Two little balls I was talking about is these boys here. They're actually attached to this fella here. And the balls themselves aren't damaged. This on this side's fine. There's no marks or no grooves cut on. There's the other one there and the housing around it. And the very same mechanism is here as well. There's a little ball there too. This was pushed back. It was pushed back too far and the ball came out of its cup that ball fits into, and it came out of that chamber. And what it did do, unfortunately, is that it cracked one of the little housings on, I think it's this one here. There's a little crack somewhere in there. And it'll take forever to find it. This part here to replace, just this part here, it's 450 plus the VAT. Just for that part. To replace the entire shaft was actually cheaper. Just a half shaft, not the other section, just this one section here. So there was a government incentive, I've been told, to actually get people to replace shafts rather than try to repair them. So that's hence the reason the parts are made more expensive than they actually replace the thing. They took the Hardy Spicer apart, these two pins out, pulled the whole thing apart, everything popped back into itself, and I was told that the crack that was in it, because it was so small and the little piece that was missing, that unless you turned nearly 90 degrees, it's a very, very slight chance that it ever come apart again. If it doesn't work, then we'll have to just put a new shaft in it. But it's not going to completely disintegrate. You can see there that them parts are all pinned in, so even if the ball was to completely disintegrate, it would not come apart because these pins hold everything together. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use it and hope that we don't have any more issues with it. And we do, we'll just replace it. I made a mistake. I could blame a million things. I'm not going to blame anything. Only pure carelessness on my behalf. And that's where we're going to leave it. We're going to put it back together again, put it back in the tank, and hope, fingers crossed, well, that's the end of that. But this little kind of a boy here, little notch, he fits just in that little notch there, the two grease nipple holes beside it, so that's what kind of lines you up. So I have to fit him in first, try to get it all to sit in place. I'll move that around. That's that notch there. You should push over. Alright, nearly there. There we go. So we see the notch coming through there now. So that means the shaft is in the right spot. So we can screw this cover back on. So I'm using my pallet breaker to hold the shaft straight. Makes it much easier to get these screws in. Just one more. And that is the screws on. Right, so the last thing to do is stick this guy on here, so it just slips over these. But anyway, that's it all put back together again. Let's throw it back in the tank. So, stick on our safety chain. Right, to line these up and make this look real simple on camera. Might be some editing here and some words. There we go. Right, so this is the thing that holds the shaft up when you're taking it off the tractor. It's a bit wonky, it's a bit all over the place, it doesn't hold the shaft right, it keeps falling off it. And that's kind of what led to what happened. I'm not blaming it, I should have spotted it, but this certainly didn't help. So maybe, yeah, maybe we should blame it. Lovely little twist on that. A wee bit of heat just makes it all that wee bit easier. Little bend here too, I see. Look at that. Straight as a pig's tail. Stick a new bolt in it when we're at it. Stick another bit. That will keep it out of the firing line now. One thing I just noticed is this thing here's hanging loose, and the longer I leave it, the worse it's going to get. So just tighten them up. Yeah, that's alright. There we go, that's better. Anyway, that's it. Hopefully I have dodged a bullet with that thing and I won't have to replace that half shaft. If I do, I do, but hopefully, fingers crossed, not. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to plow on here back to my other work. We'll see you in the next one.